There's a certain kind of silence that surrounds real power. It doesn't seek attention. It doesn't try to dominate. It simply exists, and people feel it, even if no one says a word. That kind of power doesn't raise its voice or ask for respect. It just walks into a space, and somehow, the space shifts around it. That's the kind of energy Krishna carried. He wasn't powerful just because he wore a crown. His strength didn't come from fear or force. It came from something far quieter, a deep stillness, a steady clarity, and an unshakable knowing of who he was. He didn't have to explain it. He didn't need to convince anyone. He simply lived it. There's a verse in the Gita where Krishna says, "Among the Yadvas, I am Vasudev." Just one line, simple, calm, direct. But the weight it carries is enormous. He wasn't saying he was the strongest. He wasn't saying he was the most famous. He was saying he was the essence, the center, the one who didn't have to try, because he already was. That's real royalty. And here's the thing. You don't need a throne to live like that. You don't need to wear fancy clothes or sit above others. Because true royalty isn't about appearance. It's about energy. It's about how you carry yourself when no one is looking. It's about how steady you remain, even when no one is clapping for you. But to walk like that, you have to let go of what the world teaches about power. You have to stop trying to be the loudest in the room. You have to stop trying to prove your worth through status, money, or applause. Because what Krishna showed, again and again, is that real power doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from knowing yourself. We often hear people say, "Act like a king." But what most people think that means is all wrong. They think it's about walking with pride, talking with force, showing off what they have. But all of that is noise. Real kings don't need to shout. They don't need to demand. They simply are. That's what made Krishna different. He never went looking for attention. He didn't try to impress other kings or win their approval. He didn't care for titles or rewards. He was rooted in who he was, and that made even his silence powerful. And that's what happens when you live from your truth. You don't need to chase respect. You become the reason others pause. In today's world, people think power is in how you look, how you speak, how many followers you have. But Krishna didn't perform his power. He didn't act royal. He just moved with clarity. He made decisions from a calm mind, and he never let the noise outside disturb the quiet inside. And that's where his presence came from. Not performance, presence. And even with all that strength, Krishna was gentle. He played, laughed, danced. He teased his friends and played the flute under the stars. His royalty didn't make him hard. It made him soft, because he wasn't pretending. He didn't need to build a wall around himself. His energy protected him. There's a powerful moment in the Mahabharata, just before the war begins, when Krishna goes to the Kaurava court. It's a room full of warriors, kings, and pride. And he walks in alone, not to threaten, not to fight, but to offer peace. He speaks with calm strength. He doesn't beg, but he doesn't attack either. And when they mock him, when they try to dismiss him, Krishna doesn't raise his voice. He simply shows them who he truly is. Not with more words, but by revealing his cosmic form. Not to scare them, not to prove anything, just to remind them of what they've forgotten. That true power doesn't need permission to be felt. It already is. That's the energy you carry you. You don't need to fight for space. You don't need to explain your worth. You just need to live like someone who knows it, with calm steps, with honest words, with quiet strength. Because when Krishna said, "Among the Yadavas, I am Vasudev," he wasn't boasting. He was just speaking from a place of certainty. That's what we are meant to learn. That's what it means to carry yourself like royalty, not through pride, but through presence. And that kind of presence doesn't come from big actions. It comes from small, consistent choices. From being steady when things get loud. From staying kind when others aren't. From walking into a room not wondering if you'll be accepted, but knowing that you've already accepted yourself. That's where power lives. Not in the titles. Not in the attention. But in the quiet way you sit with yourself. In how you choose to speak, or not speak. In how you keep your calm even when others lose theirs. That is the foundation of real confidence. Krishna lived it his whole life. He didn't grow up in a palace. He played in the mud, walked barefoot, and stole butter like any child. But even then, people around him felt something different. Not because of what he had, but because of what he was. And you don't have to wait to become something great before you feel worthy. You don't have to win the world's approval before you feel powerful. You can carry yourself with quiet clarity right now, in the way you think, speak, act, and respond. And even if no one else sees it immediately, you'll feel it. Because when you know who you are, the outside world stops having so much control over you. And the moment you stop trying to prove something, you start to embody it. That's when you stop chasing the crown and start realizing you've been the throne all along. So the next time you walk into a space where people don't notice you, don't shrink. The next time someone speaks over you, don't push back out of ego. And the next time life feels like it's testing your presence, don't react to the noise. Just breathe. Just hold your ground. Just stay in your energy. And when it's time to speak, let your words be calm and clear. When it's time to act, move with quiet certainty, not to impress, but because it is what needs to be done. That's the strength Krishna showed, not in loudness, but in calm. Not in control, but in clarity. So let your life speak that same truth. Not through noise, but through the presence of someone who already knows they belong.